guys, if you are seeing this, that means that it is Wednesday again. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Worship Wednesday. I do not take it lightly. I do not take it for granted. I will forever and always be humbled, grateful, appreciative, all the things that you keep coming back and seeing what God is doing in and through my life, but told through a profession of dance. I'm so glad you are here and back for another week of worship. I'm trying to figure out how to set this one up. Okay, so last week, I talked about how not only was I declaring and professing things out of my mouth, but also I was giving advice or pouring into people information that I quite literally should have been taking and internalizing for myself as well. And on the heels of that, actually I was kind of thinking this before that video. I think the video was just more pressing on my chest, on my spirit at that moment. So in the spirit of analyzing and reflecting, I started doing a lot of thinking in regards to the contrast that I noticed between me at the top of the year or the ending of last year versus now. And I kind of did speak on that last week in regards to, you know, me professing and declaring and not allowing myself to be sidetracked or detoured when hardships arise, when I'm trying to walk out what I believe God has called me to do. So this song, this dance, the song started to minister to me during that moment of reflection. It's called More Than Able because God is more than able. Regardless of what your current natural vantage point is, what you are currently visibly, naturally seeing, God is more than able to surpass whatever fear, obstacle, hardship that you are experiencing. If you will trust Him, if you will seek Him, He will either give you the strength to endure in the middle, He will either remove you, or He will carry you through. And in all three of those options, He is equally as good and sovereign. And that's just the truth. So at the beginning of the song, Tasha Cobb starts by saying, like, when did I start to forget, you know, all the good things that He's done? When did I start to believe that you weren't enough? Like, when did I start to waver in this? She doesn't necessarily use that word, but like, that's how I took it. That's how my heart interpreted it. And so in this moment of reflection, that's really where I was at. Like, I'm looking at these old videos, I'm looking at these old declarations, I'm looking at where I am now, and like, for the most part, I thought that I was still blazing on this trail, but like, it's different. It feels different. I feel different. I can see myself heavier. I can see myself more somber. I've even said on these videos, like, I can hear that I'm not on my A game. I can hear that I'm not presenting it to the full. And in efforts to still glorify God in the midst of this, I'm still going to do it, but I could tell the difference. So I really had to take those words of that song and take it to heart and really evaluate for myself. When did I start to forget? When did I start to waver? When did I start to believe, I think she said, that you weren't sufficient for me? Like, when was this road that I was traveling on, when did I determine for myself that it wasn't enough? When did I allow myself to get so sidetracked or consumed with what's in front of me that I forgot that I serve a God that knows the bigger picture, that sits outside of time and is watching all these moving pieces, of which I am a blip on a time and space. And even still, He thinks of me and knows what I'm doing, even in this moment, even at this time, even when I'm worrying. Like, when did that stop to be not fulfilling enough or not convincing enough to keep me going, to not rest in His peace and in His strength? Like, when did that happen? And the fact of the matter is, I could pinpoint it for y'all, but like I said, my business. But let's just say I've done a lot of thinking in regarding what I've pinpointed, and then also not just what I have pinpointed, but also some things that have transpired because of what I pinpointed, and some other situations and circumstances that have happened outside of that pinpoint that also echo that same thought process or that same mentality that helps perpetrate my disbelief. Okay, great. Good job, Elise. I'm glad you did all of that. Now what? Q's chorus now. Regardless, God is more than able. And if I get outside of my head long enough to see the bigger picture and see that God has still been carrying me through this, see that God has still been keeping me through this, to see that God has still been using me to declare his goodness and his mercy even in the midst of what I'm going through, I could see that God is more than able. God is more than able to come see about little old me and still have the rest of the world on his mind, on his heart, and in his sight. Ain't that crazy? Not just I'm thinking about everything, not just I have an idea of how everything's gonna go, but also in my sight. So I really connected with this song because sometimes music comes and like, because of who God is, I feel like I can speak for myself. We connect to gospel music because we know who God is. Even I think non-believers that might not necessarily understand, I feel like when the song is anointed and the message is genuinely from a place of truth, people connect to it emotionally, even if they don't necessarily have the verbiage why. I feel like it's something completely different when the message is true, when the message is genuine, and when the message is timely. So I had no idea that this song was gonna come out on this project at this time, and I would be in the middle of this season, and yet, here I am. And this song and another song that just came out on this new Maverick City project hit home real hard. And so I just want to encourage, listen, I've seen enough people posting on Instagram, Facebook, through conversations, just in everyday connection, all exclaim the same thing: life is lifing. And we deserve to extend ourselves and the people that we are connected to compassion and grace, because we are all going through something. We are all going through some version of a storm, of an obstacle, of a detour, of a hardship, because life is life. And like, I used to hate the term because like, how do you describe the color blue? It's blue. Like, it's redundant to me, but I think we all understand it because it's all happening to us. And I think even now more than ever, because there's so much happening with so many people in so many areas of the world all at one time. And here's the crazy part: even though all these moving pieces feel like it's really chaotic and really busy and it's hard for us to keep up, it's not hard for God. God is more than able. God is able to do what he said he would do, beyond our wildest thoughts, imagination, dreams, visions, hopes, desires, for his glory and for the sake of his sovereignty and for the sake of being a man, not a man that he should lie. And so in the midst of whatever it is that you're going through, I want to encourage you to trust God even in this. I want to encourage you to see the situation outside of the current emotion that you're feeling right now. Because yeah, it might still hurt, it might still be painful, it might still make you angry, it might still warrant a whole lot of appropriate responses, but can you take a step back and think with your mind, and more importantly be guided by the Spirit through prayer, through reading his word, to see it outside of your natural abilities? I follow somebody on Instagram. I feel like we could be real life friends in real life, but like we don't really know each other like that. But she's been really open and honest about her journey with therapy. And so last week she posted, my therapist gave me a homework assignment, so now I'm going to give it to all of you. And so she poses the challenge that whenever you have a thought arise in your head or an emotion that overwhelms your heart that you know doesn't belong there, instead of thinking about it or trying to analyze it or figure out where it stems from, how about you denounce it? How about you pause? I think it was 3 P's: pause, pray, and praise, I believe. Don't quote me on that. If not, this is what we're doing today. Pause, pray, and praise. Pause, because you don't need to sit there and dwell on it or allow yourself to be consumed by it. Pray, to denounce it, tear it down, counter it with something that is true, with what God says about the matter, what God says about you in that situation, that circumstance. If you don't know, please grab a Bible. Please grab a Google. Please grab a trusted, spiritually led friend and help tear down all the false things that can plague our mind. And then praise, because you got through the moment. You were allowed yourself to see God in that moment. And because you know that God is doing a new thing just by you taking the step of faith and deciding to, instead of wallowing it, I'm going to do this instead. And I think that if we all take a step back and allow ourselves to be silver lining optimists for just some brief moments, that we'll see that when we start to be thankful, we'll notice that we have a lot more things to be thankful for. And it's some combination of whether or not we're just being more grateful and more appreciative so we see more, and or that God has given us more to be thankful for. And either way, it puts us in a better headspace, it puts us in a better posture, and ultimately it leads us to being on the path of a better, spiritually led, driven life. And honestly, that's what all of this is about. Like, I genuinely am trying to be the woman that God has called me to be. Despite my best efforts in getting in my own way, God still loves me. And I'm here to tell you He still loves you too. As always, thank you so much for tuning in this week. I pray that something that I said or some movement that you saw gives you something to talk about with God today. I pray that you take it a step further, that this allows you to have edifying conversations that will build up you and the people that you are speaking with. As always, thank you for coming back week after week. God willing, I will see you again next week. This has been your weekly episode of Worship Wednesday. Thanks, and God bless.